Hello everyone, my name is Mani and today I'll be teaching you how to do some random services. So today I'll be covering an oil change, oil filter change, air filter change, and spark plug replacement. What you'll need is oil, an oil filter, hex sockets, a ratchet drive, an air filter. You'll also need something to drain your oil into, as well as a jack. Even if your car has a handbrake, you want to make sure you've got your wheels secure so the car can't roll off and, crush your skull. And then of course you've got your stand underneath as well. First off, before we can get into anything, we've got to come over here and pop the hood. Usually it'll be different in other cars. In this car you have to go down under here, pull a latch over here, you'll come over here in front of the car, you'll push this little thingy here, right? And then you'll just prop your hood up. Before we go disconnecting things all willy-nilly, we gotta come over here to the battery, right? And then remove this, so one of the terminals, so that it doesn't, have electricity when we're removing all our connections, like this. Because if this happens, it'll send a signal to the ECU telling it something's wrong, and oftentimes it'll deactivate your car, and you'll have to take it to a workshop to get it fixed and running again. Finally, before we get down to the, the physical work, the down and dirty stuff, right? You gotta get a change of clothes. You don't want to be messing up any decent clothes, right? Take something that's you're perfectly fine with getting grubby and oily and uncleanable, right? Make sure it can get ruined, because it likely will. Let's get changed, fam. So, as you can see, I have my clothes ready to work in. So I got an old top, which barely fits me, but good range of motion. It's old, I don't care if it gets ruined, I got pants, which I don't care about, and I got my flip-flops, which my dog ate one of each kind, so, it doesn't matter if they get ruined. Disclaimer, bits and pieces of this were filmed at different times, so this is gonna get confusing, can't lie, but this me is explanation me, basically, and other me, that's working me. Other me in light. When it's bright, that's working me, most likely. It's normally clothed me again. So why do you even need to change your oil? Well, first of all, if your engine overheats, there's risk of fires, of not running properly, and also if there's no lubrication, friction will start, and you don't want friction down there when the pistons are pumping, right? Because if that happens, that means that the pistons will be worn down. In your engine, it'll be broken. So what kind of engine oil will you even need? Well, to find that out, just go to your manual. It'll tell you what weight engine oil the engine can take and what kind of engine oil it wants. So that means the API rating right here. It says API SM, so this one is fully synthetic. Usually your engine can take a certain type of motor oil, and then it'll go higher grade than that as well. Also, quick disclaimer, when I say look in your manual to find the parts, you can also usually find them online, maybe to some difficulty, but always it's possible. Okay, so how do we even check if your oil needs to be changed? Well, you can come over here into your engine bay, right? Every engine bay will have one of these, a little dipstick it's called. It'll have usually a label on it, right? So what you do is you take this thing over here, right? You yank it up, and you see here, there's usually dots, right? And if it's to the highest dot, your oil's full, right? You can also check for grime, and if it's used and old. So I have successfully contorted myself to be under the car. We got a good safe stand on the wood. We're gonna remove this skid plate here, so it's gonna be right under there. There's that bolt in there. Just like that, the undercarriage is very safely and gracefully removed. Once you've cracked your oil drain plug nut, just unscrew it with your fingers and get ready for the flow. Yeah. Make sure your container is big enough to take all the fluid, and have some gloves on because you don't want the stuff on your skin, to be honest. An engine oil filter will help aid the last thing I mentioned with keeping your engine lubricated and cooled, but it'll just keep the oil cleaner for longer. Same thing for the oil filter. Usually you can find a parts store. You might have to go online, just find the right one in your manual. So once you find your oil filter, if you're lucky enough, you'll have the tool to get some purchase at it. If not, you might be able to have like chains to grab it, or some cars will be lightly screwed on enough to use your hands. Anyways, it's somewhat tough, but you know, have your drain pan or whatever you're using to catch the oil that comes off of this process. Once you've got the oil filter unscrewed, just let all the oil drain out. Ideally, you'll have something wide and, you know, something that's not a bottle to let the oil drain into, because otherwise you're going to get a massive mess. Once you're done with your old oil filter, you want to get your new one, and you want to get your engine oil. Just open this up, and you want to just get a little bit on your fingers and just lubricate the gasket here, so when it screws on, it's nice and tight and doesn't completely wear the gasket, so the seal is good. One thing I forgot to mention is when you remove the oil from your car, you might want to get some on your fingers and rub it around to feel for any sediment it might have had. You can tell this oil really needed changing, it's just really dirty. Once you're done with all that, you just want to go in here and hand screw the oil filter a little bit. And then when you're done with hand screwing it, just come back and use the special tool you had before just to tighten it down a little bit more. Just get it to full tightness with your hand, and then one more turn with the tool. Before you refill your oil, just come over here and screw your oil drain plug back on. And once you're done just hand tightening it, take your socket wrench and tighten it to spec ideally, or just by feel. Once the plug is back on, you just want to reinstall your skid plates, and you can go over top after that to just fill up the engine with oil. Once you're done with the undercarriage, just come over here and remove your, oil filler cap. Sometimes it's on top of the engine, sometimes it's somewhere else. But yeah, just come over here, remove that. Put in a funnel or whatever you need. If not, just do it straight. Take your oil and just fill up the engine. Make sure you have enough oil and of the right type. Once you're done filling up the oil, you can jack the car up again, take out the stand, and just let the car down again. Let's see if we can just... Yeah, nice. Alright. So why do you want to change your air filter? Well, you want to do that to keep it cool, obviously, as I stated. Keeping it cool means that the engine won't run hot and it won't lead to all the problems like I mentioned with oil. And it'll also mean that if your filter is fully clogged, if you change it, it'll mean air will probably go to the engine, which means it won't flood due to a bad air to fuel ratio. It's the same business with an air filter. To see what kind you need, go to your manual. You might be lucky enough to have a parts store for your specific manufacturer in your region. If not, just go online. So, what if you're changing your air filter? You'll come over here to your airbox. Usually you can see what the airbox is. It's pretty clear. It's connected to the engine with a big old tube. Once you're done with that, you want to come over here and loosen this so you can actually get to removing the filter. Once your hose clamp is loose, you might have to go around and just loosen a few bolts to get the hose off. Once any bolts you have are removed and you've removed all piping connected to this, then you can come over here and remove your mass airflow sensor. Once that's done, all airboxes are a bit different. You might have some clamps or some bolts to get rid of. Either way, just disconnect everything. Alright, and with that done, you can just come over here and remove the airbox. So when you're done with that fun stuff, just take out your filter, simple as that. Get your new one, and then pop it in, same way as that one was in. Once you're done with that, it's just a simple matter of remounting everything you took off. Ideally, you'll care enough to clean all the hosing leading to the airbox and the airbox itself, so the dust and contamination's all gone, but it's fine like this. So what good does changing your spark plugs do? Well, with good spark plugs, you'll have your engine fully combusting the air and fuel in every single cylinder. However, if your spark plugs are worn or grimy, what that means is that sometimes the air and fuel in some cylinders won't spark, and that'll mean that it can flood, and also it means that your engine can get worn down or fully just shut down because it's not getting the full combustion cycles, it's just getting worn down and broken. And finally, same business with the spark plugs. Usually you can find in your manual a few spark plugs that are listed to be okay with the car, but you can just look for diameters, like sizes. So it's going to be about thread diameter, it's going to be about hex diameter, and about thread length. So you can usually find multiple spark plugs that will fit your engine. And you also have to look at the kind of electrode it has, so different materials and if it's earth or not and how many there are. If you're wondering how to check the spark plugs, there's no very surefire way to go about it, so you might just have to look at how long it takes on your manual based on mileage to change your spark plugs, or you can go ahead and go in there and just take one out and check it to see if it needs replacing. Alright, now we're on to the spark plugs. For this example, I'm just going to take out this one over here. Normally you might have to take off your whole intake manifold system and your wiring harness, but for this one I'm just going to show you how it's done without the whole ordeal of taking everything off. So first off, you just want to take off this wiring here. Now that you removed the harness point on your spark plug, you want to just go in there and remove the boot. Some of them will have a bolt, some of them won't. Just go in there and get rid of it. Once you're done with that, you want to go in there with your special tool. So this is a spark plug puller. It's a bit longer than a normal socket. The inside's just longer so it can grab on the hex after the long terminal of the spark plug. I also want to quickly mention that if you're removing more than one spark plug, you want to label each part of the harness to each spark plug so that the wiring is correct and the firing order is correct when you put everything together again, because the firing order is extremely important and you don't want to mess it up. You just want to put the tool in there and work it in. Just get it in there and just ratchet and feel it a bit, and then just get your spark plug out. Okay, so once you got the spark plug out, you just want to take a ruler and check the gap between the anode and the cathode with your ruler, right? And you also want to check for grime and wear the spark plug. So this is pretty, it's an okay condition, but it's a bit worn out and the gap seems a bit large. I have to go check with a ruler, and I'll just go clean this up with a wire brush because I don't have any other spark plugs with me. This is just for the purpose of the video. If your gap is too large, you don't want to bang it on any hard surface or take a hammer to it. You just want to go on some surface and just tap it until the gap closes up enough. Once you have your new spark plug, or in my case your clean and re-gapped spark plug, you just want to take the tool, put it back in the hole and screw it down. You also first want to wipe down the spark plug and the tool with a clean surface, so like a tissue, to make sure no grime gets into the spark plug's like cabin thingy. Once you're done putting in the new spark plug, go in with the boot and just put it in place, right? And then connect your harness here and your bolt here if you have one. And once you're done with that, you just want to go ahead and bolt your engine cover back on. Once you're done with all the service stuff, just go ahead and reconnect your negative terminal. Yeah, just go ahead and just a few times and just tighten it. Now that you're all rewired and ready to go, just go in your car and start your engine. Alright, and just leave it here and let it warm up for about 5 to 10 minutes so that you can go back and check your oil levels and top them up if you need to, because this will just cycle the oil in the engine for a while. Don't mind the smoke coming off of it. I just spilled a bit of oil when I was filling it up, but once you've let the car run for a bit, just come back here and check your oil levels again and see where they're at, see if you need to top anything up.